Hey everybody, it's Indigo, and today I wanted to talk about one of my favorite topics, the wondrous world of Pokémon. And since it's October and I wanted to draw something spooky for the scariest month of the year, I chose to do a video about my love of Pokémon and how it affected me personally. I've been a huge fan of Pokémon ever since I knew it existed. It's always been kind of a safe space to me. I find comfort in the anime, love to play the game, and still listen to the soundtrack whilst working. And no, this is not a joke. I'm probably listening to Pokémon lo-fi whilst editing these exact words I'm saying right now. Well, more on that now. Intro please! The journey begins. So, my Poké journey began when I got this amazing Pikachu Gameboy with Pokémon Blue on my birthday. I'm not quite sure how old I was. All I remember is that I was staying at my father's for a few days and that he's won a huge giveaway by one of the local toy stores in town. This was amazing, honestly. We had very little money back then, and having some toy store randomly gifting me 300 euros worth of toys was huge. Well, and in between some games, books, stuffed animals and more, one thing especially caught my attention. Which feels so surreal to say, because we were really poor back then and I kinda felt like I suddenly turned into Harry Potter's cousin Dudley Dursley or so. And with that, my Poké journey began. By the way, I still have this Game Boy and it works till this day. I only had 2 games though, so I always switched between Pokémon and some Looney Tunes bootleg. The DS era. As soon as I knew about the existence of the Nintendo DS, I wanted to have one. I was still pretty young though, and my mom was very, anti-tech. She didn't even let me have a Nerf or play Splatoon when I was older because it would lead to violent behavior. But a few weeks before I was about to turn 6 years old, my mom met a nice man who is now my stepfather. A few months into this relationship, we moved with him and things changed. One good thing that changed was that my stepfather opened up the possibility to use tech more to me. Beforehand, I was sometimes allowed to watch TV, but really not that often, maybe twice a week for 30 minutes or so. I could only use a PC when I was at my father's, and that wasn't happening anymore, so I was pretty happy to have some tech in my life again. My stepfather showed me how to use Microsoft Word, and I began to write my first stories, play graphic design as my passion a few times, and in general rediscover tech for me. Side note by the way, when my mom introduced my stepdad to me for the first time, the only thing I did was skeptically look at him and say just one sentence whilst looking dead serious into his eyes. "Turn around so I can see if you're nice enough to see my mom." He seemed confused but turned around and I just said, "Good enough, you can come in." Me and my stepdad are good, no worries. But honestly, sorry not sorry. This moment was so hilarious that we still all remember it, and that after 15 years. Well, coming back to the Nintendo DS. My friend had one and I was desperate to get one as well. I was begging, writing letters, drawing pictures. I did everything I could to get my hands onto a Nintendo DS. When Christmas approached and I basically gave up on the idea to ever get a console on my mom's watch, I can say that I was more than just surprised when I opened my first gift. It was a Nintendo DS! The console I would have sold my soul for was finally in my hands. This Christmas is still one of the happiest memories I have, to be honest, and has kinda become my idea for perfect festivity. Maybe that sounds stupid, but my autistic ass had a special interest and it lives on in my heart until today. Gotta catch 'em all! And when I say this, I'm not only talking about the in-game Pokémon. It was to become my holy mission to get my hands on every single Pokémon game. And I think I did a pretty good job, to be honest. All I was spending my little pocket money on was art materials or DS games. I played Ranger, Dungeons, the main series of course, and everything else I could find that was either about Pokémon or secondhand, and very cheap by that. Yes, secondhand. I was at the shop almost every week to check for new games and have even been the proud owner of a hard gold Pokéwalker box. I only had my DS, but a friend of mine had a Wii as well, where we would play Pokepark on. Afterwards, we would trade Pokémon on our DS or some Pokémon cards. Sadly, my mom didn't like Pokémon at all and was annoyed by me talking about it, so it kinda became a secret obsession of mine. But I had a lot of fun and owned every generation up until the X and Y games. My favorite is Black and White, and my second favorite Heart Gold and Soul Silver, by the way. What were your favorite games on the main Pokémon series? Please tell me in the comments. Well, and then Sun and Moon kinda happened. And honestly, I was skeptical from the beginning. So, as the broken skeptical kiddo I was, I waited until I found a second-hand copy to buy the game. And I'm pretty happy I didn't spend $40 on this one in hindsight. And everything that came afterwards, well, is kinda history. A new era. I've always struggled with change, but I really love Pokémon games, so I didn't want to give it up because of one bad game. I continued to play the games I liked and observed how this would continue. X, Y and Alpha Omega were alright to me. I didn't love them as much as I loved the other games, but they were still pretty good and I was fine with it. Sun and Moon though were a huge disappointment. In the beginning I thought it might get better after some time, but then it didn't, and I kinda played through the whole game thinking, when's the real deal gonna start? I need to say at this point that I didn't play that many new Pokémon games from here on. I didn't play Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, even though I've heard that these games are better. If anyone knows something about that or played the games themselves, I'd be happy to hear about your experience in the comments. I still own my 3DS and would be down to try the games if they're worth. Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu just seemed boring to me, to be honest, and like it was targeted to a much younger audience. Also, I didn't own a Switch at that time, so I didn't play these games either. When I finally got my hands on a Switch though, Animal Crossing Special Edition, not to brag, I tried out Sword and Shield. I gave it a chance and honestly, I thought it would be worse. You can definitely have an argument about the graphics, animations and overall seemingly lazy story and character design. But it wasn't as bad as I expected and I had some fun playing it. I was really hopeful that we could get into the right direction again with Pokémon. After Sword and Shield, in 2021, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl were released, which was basically a remaster of the original Diamond and Pearl games. It was okay, I guess. It felt a little lazy to do a remaster again, but I think it's fine every now and then. I don't have much more to say about this because I love the original games and the remaster was, well, nice. It wasn't outstanding to me, partly because there was nothing really new, partly because it seemed kinda off. I don't know what else to say about this. The chibi characters were absolutely cute and everything, and it was definitely a better experience to me than Sword and Shield, but something still felt off, even if I can't quite put my finger on it. Coming to the year of 2022. Legend Arceus. Arceus, however you pronounce his name. I didn't play it to be honest, and I've heard people who hated it because they felt disappointed, as well as I've heard people that still liked it because they had some fun nonetheless. From all that I've seen through gameplay, the graphics were very disappointing and the whole environment looked way too clean to me. It looked like long travels through way too wide fields of nothingness. I wasn't really aware of any spectacular story either, but that might just be because I didn't play the game myself. All I've seen from this game looked like running over empty areas with some Pokémon to catch or trees to farm resources off. And as the broke student I am, I'm not spending $60 on this. But please tell me if you've made another experience with this game. And now to the big finale! The most recent and most disappointing Pokémon game of them all. Pokémon Scarlet and Violet. Once again I gotta say, I didn't play these games because $60 didn't seem worth this. All I've seen and heard from the game up until now was disappointing and sad. The graphics somehow seem to have gotten worse, the game is full of bugs and the whole visual storytelling looks disappointing to me. From all that I've heard, the bugs are so bad that the game regularly crashes or freezes. You fall through the floor, get confused where you're supposed to be heading, and I'm not gonna start talking about the 15 FPS. And because I didn't play the game for myself and don't want to judge a book by its cover, here's my personal resume. Conclusio. I think one of Game Freak's main problems is that they're trying to get new games out as fast as possible. And whilst I understand the capitalistic aspect of that, there has also never been such a demand for refunds on a Pokémon game than for Scarlet and Violet. The technical issues seem to make the game unplayable for a large amount of people. Many find it unplayable and think it should not have been released at this date. Another point of critique that's not uncommon to hear for a few years now is that the designs apparently get worse. And at this point I gotta say two things. Yes, I kinda agree with that. Many designs look lazy or demand for an eye bleach, but there are some decent designs as well. What I think is much more important is the following idea. Whilst I definitely understand that at 1016 different Pokémon you're struggling to find more creative ideas, why not invest the energy to make the game actually good? Why not invest in optimizing the graphics and playability? Or improve the storytelling by deepening the existing characters a bit? Especially for Scarlet and Violet, I've heard a few times that there are towns in which many houses are almost empty. I myself was a little shocked by the small amount of NPCs you could find in Sword and Shield. It's sad that a game series like Pokémon is suffering under the capitalistic motives of get it out there as fast as possible, and I personally won't support that anymore. I will buy the next game when I've seen and heard good. Game Freak should invest less in trying to invent a new Mega, Gigantamax or whatever evolution every year, and should focus more on making the games enjoyable again. And one of the big parts of making such a game enjoyable is the aesthetic and overall feeling. To convey this overall feeling, you need a good code, nice graphics, and proper storytelling. From all that I've heard, Game Freak is trying to release a new game every year now. But at the same time, Game Freak is trying to keep the core team as small as possible for more coherence, more authentic aesthetic if you want so. And if you work in game development or know someone who works in game development, you'll know this is near to impossible to achieve as a small team within a year, which is why they need to outsource, which defeats the first point again. I'd much more like to wait 3 years for a finished game that's actually good and working than spend $60 on a quick and dirty franchise move. Sorry Game Freak, but you need to change your working strategy and timeframes for the developers. And there are many people out there who would love to work for Game Freak and have passion in it, but you need to give them the time and budget to actually do so. I love the idea of small team developing because my experience with this being the most productive and most creative form of art is similar to the idea of the original Pokémon creator Satoshi Tajiri. Other great games by small teams include Stardew Valley, Binding of Isaac, Minecraft, Hades, Hollow Knight, and much more. And whilst this was my critique for the games, Pokémon isn't only about games. I'm a big fan of the anime, and I gotta say that it didn't get worse, even better in my opinion. One of my favorite things to watch are the Pokémon shorts. But the Pokémon anime in general is high quality, experimental and innovative. I guess that's because there's another studio involved with the anime than with the games. But honestly, the newer Pokémon animations are so amazing that they stand up well to Disney in my opinion. Well written, emotional, good storytelling, even better visual storytelling. And I swear I could take any screenshot out of some animation projects and make it a poster to hang up on my wall. When I was disappointed with the Sun and Moon games, I still watched the anime. And this season is really good, trust me. It made me cry several times. So here are my top 3 favorites for the Pokémon anime, besides the main series of course. Pokémon Twilight Wings. I've watched it a few weeks ago, and besides its absolutely stunning visuals, every 8-minute episode made me cry. Honestly, I can't remember crying for any other movie or series other than Pokémon ever. The Poketoon series. This is a series of short animations that you can find on YouTube as well. It includes some of my favorite episodes. I think my absolute favorite is Help, I've Turned into a Gengar. But they're all amazing and I really appreciate the experimentation with storytelling here. Pokémon Journeys. This must be my favorite season from the main series. It has one of those intros you just can't skip. I even have it downloaded on Spotify for motivational purposes. The animation is stunning here as well. This season got me into the Pokémon anime again, just because it's reached a new high for Poké animation to me. If you're interested in watching these, I'd highly recommend getting the Pokémon TV app, or just open the website and watch it there. It doesn't include every single Pokémon anime, but a big chunk of it. And I think especially the short animations are 100% worth watching. Pokémon TV is free, by the way. I'll put a link in the description. So, thank you for watching this video. What was your favorite Pokémon games? Do you watch the anime, or am I lonely with my love for it? Comment down below, and if you're already at it, what do you think about this development? Are you fine with the new games, or disappointed as well? I personally am very afraid of the franchise dying out, especially the games at this point, to be honest. I'm not sure if they're gonna sell any more games if they proceed like this, but let me know your opinion in the comments. If you wanna stay, I put together a dia show of all my Pokémon merchandise I own. I think I'm gonna put something small at the end of every video now. Last time it was outtakes, this time it's a dia show. Thank you for watching, and till next time, Inklings! Working. No, this is not a joke. I'm probably listening. Chose to do a video about my love of Pokemon and how So, my Poké journey began when a few months into this relationship, well, coming back to the game, and I think I did a pretty good job, to be honest. I was spending my I was at the shop almost every week to check for new games, and I've even could play Poké Park on. Afterwards, we would play. It's sad that a game series like Pokémon is suffering.